Okay, students, good day. Welcome to Lesson 5. We'll be having our discussion on the Philippine government science and technology policies, plans, and Filipino scientists. So, welcome to Lesson 5. We will explore the crucial role of science and technology in shaping Philippines' progress and development. And this presentation will highlight three essential components. First, the government policies and plans to foster science and technology. Second, the impact of these policies on nation building. The third one is the contributions of Filipino scientists who transformed knowledge into innovations. At the heart of this lesson, it is simple yet a powerful message. Science and technology are not optional for a nation. They are the engines of survival, resilience, and progress. In this lesson, we aim to here's our learning objective: identify the actual science and technology policies and plans implemented by the Philippine government, evaluate how these contribute to economic development, poverty alleviation, and national resilience. And lastly, recognize Filipino scientists and their significant contribution to knowledge, technology, and industry. By the end, you should understand not only facts of these plans, but also why they matter for our nation's future. The transformative power of science and technology, in which science and technology are woven into every aspect of our lives, from the food we eat to the gadgets we use, from the healthcare system to disaster response. Science and technology is the invisible framework that supports society. The Philippines, as a developing nation, faces pressing challenges such as poverty, weak infrastructure, environmental degradation, and of course, we are very vulnerable to disasters. And science and technology offer solutions. It offers innovations, especially in agriculture that can reduce hunger. In environment, we have clean energy that can reduce dependence on imports, and ICT, or information and communication technology, that can connect Filipinos to the global economy. Thus, investing in science and technology is not a luxury, it is necessity for survival and progress. Science and technology fundamentally reshape how people live, work, and connect. As Roy Chetty, 2012, explained, revolutions in science and technology are essential for development, driving economic growth, education, health, and infrastructure. Breakthroughs in microprocessors, telecommunications, biotechnology, and nanotechnology have changed economies worldwide. For example, here in our country, Philippines, these innovations mean opportunities to cure diseases and improve healthcare access. Also, enhance education through digital learning. Aside from that, increase productivity in agriculture and industry, and develop globally competitive industries. The point here is that no country achieves sustainable growth without a strong investments in science and technology. Let's proceed to the Philippine government plans on science and technology. Our government recognizes that science and technology is vital in globalized world, and initiatives have been launched such as improving research and development, or R&D, enhance infrastructure like laboratories and technology hubs, support human resource development through scholarship and training. That's why we have the USD scholars, and promote technology transfer from academia and foreign partners. But challenges persist. Why? It's because insufficient funding, weak infrastructure, and issues in sustainability. Unless, if they are resolved, the best policies remain only on paper. This is why there should have a strong implementation and monitoring, and vision must translate into action. Let's proceed to the Science and Technology Master Plan that was built on 1989 under the presidency of Cory Aquino. Class, the STMP, or the Science and Technology Master Plan, this is a this was a historic roadmap for the Philippines. It aimed to tackle national issues like poverty and environmental degradation through scientific advancement. One of the key strategies here include modernizing production sectors through technology transfer. The second one, upgrading the research and development capability via infrastructure and scholarships. And lastly, developing information networks to link academia, industry, and government. And this STMP was forward thinking, identifying biotechnology and of course IT, information technology, as priority areas before they became global drivers. Its legacy lies in showing that the Philippines can think long term in science and policy. There are 15, 50 leading edges for industrial development, but here 9 lang yung nakalagay dito, no? Okay, so let's discuss all of these. The STMP listed 15 educational sectors. And what's the purpose of this one? This is critical for development, no? Such as aquaculture, forestry, energy, IT, electronics, and even emerging technologies. This is very important, for instance, in the IT and electronics, especially anticipated today's booming BPO sector. For energy and transportation, recognize the importance of renewable energy, and for the emerging technologies and pharmaceuticals, foresaw the global digital economy. By investing in diverse sectors such as these 15 leading edges, we create resilience, reduce dependence on imports, and open opportunities for millions of Filipinos. Through the initiative of uh, Fidel V. Ramos, the president at the time, the stand, or should I say, Science and Technology Agenda for National Development, or Stand 2000. It was implemented in 1993 to 1998. The president that this time is Fidel V. Ramos. What's the aim of this stand? The purpose or aim is to strengthen the economy and global competitiveness. It identified 7 export winners. First, we have computer software, to be followed by marine products, fashion accessories, dried fruits, furniture, metal fabrication, and gift toys or houseware. This plan showed that science and technology is not only about high-tech industries. It can empower traditional sectors like handicrafts and agriculture. Innovation, when we applied strategically, it can make Filipino products competitive worldwide. Now, I will be discussing the domestic needs and support of this Stand 2020. And it is very important because while the 7 export winners presented earlier targeted global competitiveness, the domestic needs and support industries ensured that progress was also felt within our country. And without strengthening the domestic base, export growth would not translate into inclusive development. That's why the STAND, or the Science and Technology Agenda for National Development, recognize the science and technology not only make the Filipino globally competitive, but also address the urgent needs of its people at home. The goal is to balance export for international growth plus domestic needs for national resilience. And there are 11 domestic needs. We have the first is the food. No? The agenda is to emphasize modernizing agriculture and fisheries through mechanization, biotechnology, and food processing. For instance, improving rice yields with high yield varieties, developing aquaculture system for marine products, and innovating in food preservation to reduce waste. The impact to this one to our society, it creates better food security, less dependence on imports, and cheaper food for Filipino families. The second one is housing. The science and technology driven solutions for low cost yet durable housing were encouraged. And research on alternative materials such as bamboo composites, recycled plastic bricks could make housing more affordable and sustainable. The impact of this to our society, more Filipinos can access safe, at the same time disaster resilient homes. The third is health. The plan called for improving healthcare systems, including medical technology and pharmaceutical development, as well as hospital infrastructure. Through this, it can increase life expectancy, it reduced disease burden, and the development of local pharmaceutical industries. The fourth is clothing. This encouraged textile innovation and local garment production using indigenous fibers such as abaca or pinya. Through this, creation of local jobs, reduced import reliance, and of course, promotion of Filipino culture through fashion. The fifth domestic need is transportation. Focus on modernizing aviation, maritime, and land sport through local engineering and infrastructure projects. The impact to this to our society, it creates efficient transportation that reduces logistic costs, supports industries, and improves mobility. The sixth is communication, promoted ICT expansion, stronger telecommunications, and integration of media with new technologies. It gives bridging the digital divide, enabling e-commerce, distance learning, and globally connectivity. The seven, disaster mitigation. Since we are in the Pacific Ring of Fire, the same time we are there are lots of natural disaster that our country will be facing. That's why is one of the domestic needs. Recognize that Philippines is very vulnerable. We are very vulnerable to typhoons, earthquake, and volcanic eruptions. That's why science-driven disaster risk reduction programs were prioritized, such as early warning system and hazard mapping. So through this, it help, or I mean it there will be more lives to be saved, reduce economic losses, and of course more resilient communities. The eighth one is the defense. Strengthened military research and development, focusing on equipment upgrades and locally manufactured defense technologies. It creates impact to our society to to have better national security and less dependence on foreign suppliers. For the environment, the ninth one, prioritize biodiversity conservation, sustainable forestry, and pollution control technologies. And through this, we can protect our ecosystem, stronger ecotourism, and sustainable resource management. The tenth one is manpower development. There is a need to put emphasis on training programs, scholarships, and upgrading Filipino skills to produce a highly skilled workforce. And through this, we could have a better employability for Filipinos in both local and global job markets. The last one is energy. Energy advocated investments in renewable sources like solar, wind, and geothermal, in which our country, Philippines, has a great potential. And through this, there is an energy independence, reduce costs, and sustainable power generation. As you can see also, class, there are three support industries. First, packaging. Development of innovative, eco-friendly packaging for food and pharmaceutical exports. And having this one, we could create a sustainable um, society in which we could reduce waste, enhance competitiveness of Filipino exports, and compliance with the international safety standard. The second one is chemicals. Expansion of local petrochemicals, fertilizers, and specialty chemical industries. It creates impact to our society by supporting for agriculture and manufacturing, and it reduces dependence on imports. And lastly, metal. Metal, since as you have observed, there are a lot of mining companies in our country. So the development of local capacity in steel, aluminum, and copper industries. And through this, we could have a cheaper construction materials, stronger local manufacturing, and reduce import reliance. Class, this stand 2000, it proved that real development is not just about exports. It's about meeting domestic needs first. By focusing on food, housing, energy, and disaster resilience, the Philippines strengthens its independence and resilience. Support industries ensure that ordinary Filipinos, not just exporters, benefit from scientific and technological advances. Please take note of this one. Exports bring prestige, but domestic needs bring stability. That's why Stand 2000 wisely balanced both, making it one of the most people-centered and science and technology plans in our Philippine history. Beyond export, Stand 2000 also emphasized domestic priorities: food, housing, health, transportation, clothing, communication, disaster mitigation, and environment. And this was a holistic approach, ensuring that the scientific advancement did not just serve exports, but also improve the lives of ordinary Filipinos. It also highlighted supports industries like packaging, chemical, and metals, which strengthened the backbone of production. And without strong local industries, export growth would not be sustainable. Let's proceed to the National Science and Technology Plan, or the NSTP 2000 to 2020. Let me summarize this one. The NSTP, or the National Science and Technology Plan, it outlined long-term goals. Stated here, at the end of 2024, it boosts productivity and competitiveness. By 2010, position the Philippines as world-class knowledge provider, and by 2020, produce globally competitive high-tech products. And it identified 12 priority areas, from agriculture and ICT to disaster mitigation and energy. This vision was clear that science and technology would be pillars of competitive and resilient nation. But consistency was key. Without continuity across administrations, such ambitious plans risk being abandoned halfway. That's why there is a need to the government, no, despite of the changes of the government every 6 years. That's why there is a need to continue each program of the each program from the DOST. The next one is the governing policies and programs on science and technology. And here, there are four clusters. But class, policies in science and technology directly impact Filipino lives. Sir, what are the direct impact? We have food programs like the school-based feeding program, milk supplementation, and faith program to fight malnutrition. Another, we have the health policies aligning to the ASEAN standards for drug manufacturing and pharmaceuticals. The next is education policies promoting ICT in schools and mother tongue instruction. The next one is environmental policies on biodiversity protection and biosafety. The NCRP, or should I say, the National Research Council of the Philippines recommended allocating 2% GDP to research, and this is a bold step toward real progress. These policies prove that science and technology is not abstract. It is in the food we eat, the medicines we take, and the disaster responses that save lives. The 4 NCRP cluster 2015 here are very important because they show how the Philippines was preparing for ASEAN integration and long-term competitiveness. And through science and technology, let me give you um, discussion of the four clusters. Cluster 1, social sciences, humanities, education, and international policies governance. This cluster recognized that science and technology progress depends on strong education and cultural foundations. It recommended integrating ASEAN awareness in primary education so that Filipino children would grow up with regional identity and competitiveness without overloading the curriculum. Mother tongue instruction proven to improve learning outcomes, especially in early grades, ensuring students understand concepts better. Next is advancing school infrastructure and ICT broadband, bridging the digital divide so the rural students have the same access to learning tools as urban students. The next one is promoting local food security, linking science and technology with agriculture to ensure communities are self-sufficient. This cluster is not just about academics, it's about building human capital. Without well educated, globally aware, and digitally connected citizens, all technological advances will be wasted. That's why the Philippines must invest in education reforms and ICT to produce a workforce that can compete ASEAN and beyond. The cluster 2 is under physical engineering, physics engineering, industrial research, earth space sciences, and mathematics. This cluster focuses on hard sciences and engineering, which drive industrial growth and innovation. Recommendations include providing outright research grants for scientists, ensuring projects are not derailed by bureaucratical delays, reviewing RA 9184 or Government Procurement Reform Act because outdated procurement laws often slow down the purchase of essential laboratory equipment and materials. Lastly, leveraging science and technology as an independent mover of development, ensuring that technology is not just by product of economic growth, but a primary engine of progress. Example, think of Japan, South Korea, or Singapore. They invested heavily in physics, engineering, and applied research, which led them to their dominance in manufacturing electronics and IT. If our country, Philippines, strengthens this cluster, we can break free from being just a service-based economy and become a producer of technology, not just a consumer. The third one is medical, chemical, and pharmaceutical sciences. This cluster directly impacts healthcare, pharmaceuticals, and food safety, which are vital for national well-being and competitiveness. Recommendations were ensuring drug manufacturing meets ASEAN harmonized standards so Filipino-made medicines can compete in the regional market, creating an education council For pharmaceutical services, such as standardizing training so our professionals are globally competitive. Empowering food and drug agencies, giving them resources to conduct evidence based research and enforce safety standards. Allocating 2% of GDP to research, this is a bold recommendation, considering that Philippines invests less than 1% in research and development. And lastly, legislating support for human genome projects to position the country in cutting edge biotechnology and personalized medicine. Health is not only a social service in our country, but this one, it is an economic driver. If the Philippines develops strong pharmaceutical and medical research industries, we can reduce dependence on imported drugs, lower healthcare costs, and even become an exporter of medical solutions in ASEAN. The last cluster is biological sciences, agriculture, and forestry. This cluster emphasized that Philippines' rich biodiversity and agricultural base. That's why following recommendations included protect biodiversity by fully implementing existing environmental laws. Next, promoting biosafety and standard models across ASEAN, ensuring responsible use of biotechnology, especially in the GMO crops, genetically modified organism or crops. Supporting indigenous knowledge system by recognizing the wisdom of local communities in sustainable resource use, and formulating common food and safety standards to align Filipino agricultural exports with ASEAN and global markets. The Philippines is one of the world's biodiversity hotspots. Properly managed, this is not just an environmental treasure but also an economic one. From ecotourism to biotechnology, from sustainable forestry to agricultural exports, but without strong policies, this wealth is at risk. Protecting biodiversity is not just about conservation, it's about securing food, jobs, and the future of Filipino communities. Unless the Philippine funds unless our country will strongly fund these four clusters consistently and shields them from political discontinuity, we will keep lagging behind our ASEAN neighbors. But if we commit, we can transform our greatest challenges into our strongest opportunities. Let's proceed to the last part of our discussion, prominent Filipino scientists and their contributions. Despite limited resources, Filipino scientists have made world-class contributions. Let's take the prominent Filipino scientists listed in in our lesson, together with their contribution, connecting them with also what's the use of their applications. Let's discuss first Dr. Chidolo M. Topacio, the field of veterinary medicine. His contribution is in research in biochemistry and plant physiology, particularly in rice and sugarcane, leading to improved crop varieties. His work on rice directly impacts food security. Every time Filipinos eat rice that grows faster, resists pests, or yields more, they benefit from his research. This also helps farmers earn more income and reduces the needs for costly imports. Dr. Mercedes B. Concepcion, for demography, he's known as the mother of Asian demography. He pioneered demographic research and policies on population and productive health. Her studies influence family planning programs and population management policies in our country. This is why we have better data on birth rates, migration, and urban growth, essentially for city planning, school construction, and healthcare services. The third one is Ernesto Domingo for under infection diseases. Work, work in clinical toxicology and pharmacology, particularly on snake venom. led to the development of anti-venom serum. Farmers and hunters and rural residents are safer today because of his research. Snake bites used to be deadly in remote areas, but with anti-venom serum, many lives have been saved in the Philippine province. The fourth one is Perla di Santos Ocampo. In terms of pediatrics, his contribution is towards research genetics of thalassemia, resulting in diagnostic tests and genetic counseling services. Her contribution for families with a history of blood disorders can now be diagnosed early, preventing complications and improving children's health. And her work helped reduce the suffering of children with genetic blood diseases in Filipino communities. The fifth one is Dr. Raul V. Fabella under economics. He developed new theories and models for Philippine economy known for his work on property rights, regulations, and market reforms. His research guides government policies on poverty reduction, privatization, and economic reforms. For example, his work influenced the way the government manages public utilities and improved economic competitiveness. The next one is Father Benvenido Nebres SJ in terms of mathematics education. His significant work in algebraic geometry and mathematics education played a huge role in science and math education reforms. As the former president of Ateneo de Manila University, he championed math and science programs that shaped generations of Filipino students. Many STEM professionals today, engineers and scientists or IT experts, benefited from benefited from the education systems he improved. Number seven is Dr. Angel C. Alcala in under biological sciences. He pioneered marine biodiversity conservation, established marine protected areas or MPAs, and promoted sustainable fisheries. Real life application. Because of his work, many coastal communities have healthier fish populations and improved livelihoods. And MPAs, marine protected areas created under his leadership, allowed coral reefs and fish stocks to recover, ensuring fishermen can continue providing seafood for Filipinos. Number eight is Dr. Ramon C. Barbara under the horticulture. His contribution invented a method to induce flowering in mango trees, enabling year-round fruit production. So every time we eat mangoes in off-season months, it's thanks to his discovery because his work boosted the Philippine mango export industry, creating jobs and making our mangoes famous worldwide. The ninth one is Dr. Gavino Trono under marine biology. Contribution his contribution specialized in seaweed biology and cultivation, developing new species for commercial use. Seaweed farming provides livelihoods for thousands Filipino families, particularly in coastal areas. And seaweed is also used in toothpaste, ice cream, cosmetics, and even pharmaceuticals. And his research made the Philippines a global leader in carrageenan production. Lastly, we have Dr. Edgardo de Gomez, still under marine biology. He pioneered coral reef ecology and conservation, established the first national program to monitor and protect Philippine coral reefs. Thanks to him, because areas like the Bataha Reefs and National Park are now UNESCO World Heritage Sites because his work preserves biodiversity, protect fisheries, and boosts ecotourism, which contributes billions to the Filipino economy. Class, these scientists prove that Filipino brilliance change lives. Farmer eats better and earn more for Topacio, Barbar, and Trono. Families have better health care for Domingo and Santos Ocampo. Citizens live in safer and more sustainable development under Alcala and Gomez. and the economy is stronger and policies more informed, Fabelia consumption. And lastly, education is improved for future innovators under Nebres. So investing in Filipino scientists is investing the nation. Their work is not confined to laboratories, but it touches every Filipino lives, from the food on our plates to the air we breathe. To conclude, science and technology are the engines of national survival and growth. Philippine government policies such as SPMP, Stand 2000 or NSTP set the framework, and program addressed food, health, education, and environment. Filipino scientists turn vision into reality through groundbreaking research. Please take note that because every innovation is not just about science, it's about nation building, resilience, and securing a better future for all Filipinos. That would be all for our discussion. Our discussion in Lesson 5, the Philippine Government Science and Technology Policies, Plans, and Filipino Scientists. Thank you so much for listening, class, and have a nice day.